Hello and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu, and today I'm going to spend a lot of time saying, I'm sorry, what exactly is that? Because sometimes this Hunter x Hunter really needs us to go and dig up its filthy as bugs to understand exactly what's happening and how it affects us really deeply. Episode 76. This episode was a neat and interesting introduction to a whole slate of new concepts and characters, as well as more insight into the traits Gon and his father share. And while we all knew it wasn't going to be Ging casually fishing, right? Like we totally knew that. We know his preferences are for flying on a dragon. I didn't say that twice, I meant to say that. His preferences are flying on a dragon. So the connection had to be there, since the reasoning was pretty clear. But before we go much further, we got a whole new theme song with a whole new host of new faces. And what does that mean? A whole new slate of character names for me to fail to learn and make up my own. For all that I say I don't read the comments, one thing has consistently managed to get through my quick skims to see your general vibe. That general vibe being my favorite member of the military. Pow! Yeah, so that vibe is, you all want Chimera Ant. I don't know what this Chimera Ant thing is or what the Chimera Ant arc will be about, but there are ants in the theme title, so one can only assume that this is this one. This here is the moment you've all been waiting for, and I'll be honest, I truly thought it was going to be a metaphorical ant or someone called Ant, like Anthony, not actual ants. Like, really? Did Togashi do that thing where he researches deeply into something, then writes an entire arc about that thing? Because I'm baffled by the concept of a queen ant sitting in a cave golem style eating fish to give birth to the king ant, but we'll come back to that and all the questions I have about bug people and winged creatures and my general confusion with everything going on in this world that we've had absolutely no indication could ever have been a thing. Where does a giant ant come from, and why is that not something that came up anywhere in this world before as something that could exist? She's huge. Back to the beginning of the episode, and Gon and Killua land in this beautiful snow-like magical petal fairy tale land after traveling a long way to see his father, Neeg. What they find is a strange at first dude called Kite with a swishy cape that goes swish swish and a clown thing that maybe randomly gives him weapons and is sassy at him. I am immediately confused because I thought hunters were somewhat in control of how their nen presents, and apparently either they're absolutely not, or while he was in training, Ging messed with him and said, hey, you know what? It would be really funny if you just randomized your abilities. Do it. And the problem is, with the image we've been given of Ging so far, someone who would tell his son he doesn't want to meet him, then set up an elaborate plot to tell that son that meeting him... With the image we've been given of Ging so far, someone who would tell his son he doesn't want to meet him, then set up an elaborate plot to keep that son from meeting him while providing the most intensely interesting and entertaining environment in which to try to find someone, then decide that friends make that son weak while asking his friend to program something. Don't think I didn't notice that. I'm coming back to it. So with all those random behaviors he does, and the fact that he'll just change someone's name because, he does it, he wants to, he and Gon are perfectly matched. If this series were ever actually finished, I wouldn't be surprised to find it's a loop and Gon meets his dad, taps him on the shoulder, says, "Tag, you're it," then runs off to hide. It's the sort of thing I would expect from this particular family, and that's why, see, I didn't forget, that's why I could easily expect Ging to mess with Kite like that. See, I got there. I went back in circles, but we got there eventually. Stay with me. Ging and Gon's similarities are such that we can see the desire to play in both. We can also see the impulsiveness. Someone who would change a friend's name to make game branding flow, as well as someone who would fight or kill to protect those things he cares about while wandering away from all those things that he doesn't. It also seems Ging is just as capable of gathering people around him who he can ask or make do what he wants them to do. In fact, sitting on the idea of friendship for a moment, it's fascinating that Ging decided Gon could only see him alone. There's something in that speaks to the psychopathy I attribute to Gon. Why would a child only be able to see their father alone? Why would Ging think Gon needs to confront him, or why would it be weakness for him to be with a friend? The fact that Ging didn't consider other reasons for having a friend accompany you says so much about him and his expectations and engagement in relationships. And because I'm me, maybe I'm looking at all of this the wrong way, and in fact, Ging is also psychopathic. He's also psychopathic. Everyone he's helped, he seems to have put to work for him in some way. In the same way that Gon helped Killua get out of his home, Ging seemed to have helped a slew of people. What we don't know yet is what Ging hunts, and I'm starting to wonder if he hunts and captures emotions so he can put them to work for him, not so that he has friends. Hang on, my husband's calling me. I like the blue ones. I like the blue ones, they're tasty. And any of those would be delicious. Don't tell my husband I just had that call. He thinks I'm recording. Actually, I don't know that he does know I'm recording. I'm going to put this to charge before we move on. After all, the others who helped him build Greed Island are stuck on that island now. Sure, it seems out of choice, but there are twins who seemingly never leave their programming room. There are characters built into the game for whoever may come along to reach and end game with. He makes friends, they feel indebted, and so they do what he wants them to do, which seems to be just wait for years until his young psychopathic son decides to come join him and make things difficult for that son so that he's worthy of his father by the time they do meet. Ging, ultimately, is a very strange but entirely predictable character. Everyone who meets him thinks he's wonderful, so there are a lot of stories, myths, and legends about him. Everything anyone has to say about him makes him seem even more impressive, so I wonder whether meeting him will actually be a huge letdown. Ultimately, despite the psychopathy that seems to run through at least the male part of the family, the result is that people are made better as a result. It's a strange symbiosis of society. People who don't care make people who do care do things that ultimately help society. Not always and not often, but in this particular world of this particular show, that sort of seems to be the consistent takeaway message. What I did find strange in this episode was that Melody's theme popped up while Gon and Kite were talking, or at least I've always called it that. Is his energy supposed to be seen as similar? Perhaps, given his apparent affinity with animals that every hunter has that wasn't a thing before. Wait, has he always had an affinity with animals? Has that always been a thing? Why have I never... I want to know more about Kite, and I'm sure it won't take long for us to get to meet the King of the Ants, so let's check out episode 77. Episode 77, and we're going to start with what I perceive to be the worst thing about this series and work our way back out of that pit. It's the seriously awful racial portrayal of characters. Throughout my reviews, I've ranted about the racist and sexist, when it, gets really bad, undertones to the series. On balance, Canary is cool, despite the mammy-like depiction. I was glad Ambereddraws, yes, I did in fact look that up, snake monster guy, Ambereddraws, got to live unlike Blowpipe Garetta, and Squala got a quick, brief development of backstory after being humiliated and acting like a dog, but before being unceremoniously killed and never thought of again. And those are the ones that stick with me because I'm black. Unfortunately, perhaps, because of my own perspective on the world, that plays into my reviews, and the things I notice are pretty grim. This time I had to seriously pause, because Lin and Podango were such incredibly awful and obvious caricatures that it wasn't just the fact that Kite called his companions amateurs that told me they're not going to be around for long. I had to stop, reassess whether I'm okay with watching this and engaging with it before going on. And that's before the rest of the crew. Something we really need to be clear about before I move on, because I can't talk about this forever, nor do I want to, is that the show is a product of its time, and I understand that. It's from the 90s, like Mr. Popo and Jinx. I just wanted to experience the quest of a psychopathic preteen searching for his father with his assassin heart-eyed friend. Give me that escapism. I want it. Damn it, please. Just the escapism. Anyway, the escapism part is good. Except working back as I said I would, these friends of Kite's. Oh man, they gotta go. We have a banana something, slow something bubblegum, shut up, staring chick, 90s wannabe fro guy, cowman, and cat dog. I'm just so excited for what the show will become when my screen is not taken up by them, to be entirely honest. They're all uniquely annoying in their own way, and I feel bad for saying that because I'm sure they'd be really fun to watch for someone, maybe. At the end of the first half of the episode, I had a strange sense of disconcert, probably a combination of what was actually happening in the Queen Ant storyline, but majorly to do with this group of people. When someone tells me they're not a specialist in something, but they're doing research on it anyway, my ears perk up like a dog hearing dinner time. For Killua to be the first person who says, hey, so this is really long, so we should extrapolate that to mean the creature could eat people, and then to tell them that the creature eating whatever it eats gains aspects of that food's genetics, I would be quarantining much more strictly than it seems they have, and telling many more people than they have that there is a serious problem. Where did this queen come from? It's still an issue from before. Where did she come from, and how was this not a problem before? This hungry queen, a game coming to Liam and my shelves this summer. Hungry queen sounds actually quite fun to play. She sounds driven and focused on her goal in a way the kids won't have experienced yet, and that's exciting. There's something frightening and uncomfortable about your enemy being hunger. It's like the idea of a black hole, just the concept of hunger. Yes, there's something behind it, but at that moment, their enemy is just something that wants to consume. And that's a great premise for an arc. I suppose we can expect that aspects of the group we've seen will all turn up as members of her army when they do get consumed, so we'll see a cowman bug at some point, maybe an annoying bubblegum bug or a spider sort of creature. I don't know, but I'm really hoping there's actually a purpose behind them being as annoying as they are. The fact that we start the arc at children being eaten is a good indication of where we're going to end up. Start dark, get darker. It was a surprise having children become a meal, but now that I know that's the world we're stepping into, one in which the brother will look after his sister forever, then die anyway, prompting a massacre in the real world because people are tasty, well, let's just say Stick Dinners will have a lot on his plate for a while. And you know what? I'm gonna leave you there with that joke because that's what this episode deserves. If you'd like to see more, hear more, talk more, click here, 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 and hang out on the Discord where things happen. Otherwise, hit the like and subscribe buttons and I will see you next time.